Yeah, we are live.
Are we, Charlie?
We are. Hey, gang. This is Charlie Iona. How you doing, Mel?
Mel? Is that my name?
Mel?
Mel? Mel. Hey, how's it
Mel?
going, Charles? How are you doing,
Doing fine.
Charles?
Doing fine.
How was your
Doing
day
fine.
today, Charlie? How was your
Well,
day?
I had an opportunity to change my gasket on my engine. I blew a gasket this morning. And some of you may have seen that post, and I apologize, but I had to get something straight. And it's there's two sides to everything. So I gave my side, and the person that I felt needed to get tongue lashing, they're always welcome to tongue lash back. It's we can agree to disagree, right?
Yeah, and in fact, let's take care of the house. Is that what they call it? The house rules before you do a party. House
Yeah.
rules, yeah. Housekeeping. First of all, aloha, you guys. Thank you for joining us again tonight on this beautiful Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock, near 7. We'll get Lieutenant Governor Josh Green. He should be knocking on our door very shortly. So we just wanted to come in a little early. You know the deal. All of you that are on right now, share it. Do a watch party. Share this right now. We're going to have the Lieutenant Governor on. So go ahead and share it right now. We'll be reminding you a few times throughout the evening because we want people to get the message straight from the horse's mouth. The longer we go, Charlie, as you just talked about, the longer we do this, the more times we do this show, we pick up haters here and there, and trolls. So that's one of the housekeeping measures, I maxed out on friends, so I cannot add no more. So I'm looking to clean house a little bit. So I just want to say, I love the debate. I love the discussion. I love the like you said, the agreements to disagree. That's what this whole thing is about. It's about sharing ideas. But the personal attacks, the unnecessary, ridiculous trolling, I just gonna bump them and make way for a new person that really wants to be a good friend that can contribute. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. The other thing is t-shirts. Charlie, again.
Yes,
How is
there
that?
it is.
That's a beautiful. It kind of looks like yours, Charlie.
Yep.
Kind of looks like yours. You know what? Today I was so honored today because somebody asked me which one is you and which one is Charlie. I was like so happy, that they got you and me confused. That was like, I love that. But anyway, thank you guys. We broke the $500 mark. We're approaching $600. $10 a shirt. Kirk Correa and his t-shirt company they've donated all the shirts. And those of you that sent payment, we should be getting the shirt shortly. And Charlie and I will personally deliver it to you as soon as we get the shirts, which I know I do a daily order, so we should be getting those. But $10. Kurt keeps nothing. We keep nothing. The entire proceeds will go to the Hawaii Community Foundation to help the people on Kauai. So those of you that I've sent one to Oklahoma. We got one on Oahu. Thank you for contributing, but that money will stay here on Kauai. But for the rest of you, please, if you're interested, don't post it. Put it on the messenger to me. Just tell me what size, how many. I'll shoot you over the PayPal or the Venmo link, and you can pay for it, and then we'll get your shirts done. So awesome. So again, it's really nice shirts, Charlie. I really like the shirt. I saw you wearing them the other day when you were passing out food.
Yes.
That was cool, man. That was cool.
Yes. In fact, some people had asked, and I said, well, they said, oh, you the guy. Yeah, I said, yeah, I the guy. So it was kind of neat, but some people have asked that way, so I just took their name down. Oh, I hear a doorbell.
Josh Green is knocking at the door, so we're gonna let Josh in right now. This is probably one of the most busiest guys on the planet right now. Lieutenant Governor Green, thank you for joining us. Looks like you just got off of work. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, and I can hear you.
Good to see you.
Perfect. Well, welcome back, and thank you for agreeing to come back. You said a week or two, and it's a week or two. A lot has happened in the last couple of weeks, so we're not going to waste no time. We know your time is valuable, so we're gonna, got a lot of people on, so we'll go ahead and give us an overview, man. Just give us whatever you can tell us, and then we'll pop some questions your way right after that.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, and aloha, Kauai. It's great to be with you. We are at 586 cases, which is just 2 new cases today, 12 fatalities, which they hurt. There's no doubt about it. And we know our loved ones have had contact with others that have been lost. So that hurts, but the number just 2, they were both on Maui today. That suggests that the amount of virus, the viral load that's in our society is dropping very quickly. I can also tell you that our rate of recovery has increased very significantly. We are now at 423 of our people out of the 586 have recovered, which is 72.4%. So each day, a few more people recover, usually about 20 a day. They clear the danger zone, and they therefore go back into society, and they're immune now for the most part. That's fabulous. Meanwhile, we wrestle with when to open things up. So we're pushing through this virus. We're getting near the end of phase 1. Phase 1 being cracking down hard on the virus, doing all that we can. And I got to say thank you to everybody for sacrificing, for staying at home, for distancing yourself from other friends. And we miss our buddies, and we miss going out and drinking with people and hanging out and doing anything that we do, barbecues and first birthdays. We miss that, but we will make up for it in the coming months when we get through this. So that's kind of the lay of the land on where the numbers are. Of course, globally, the numbers are big. It's 2.5 million people diagnosed, and 171,000 people have died. We continue to push back and make sure that our testing is adequate. We're the third most prevalent tester in the country. We're just over 25,200 tests now been completed. We've had these 586 cases, which takes us to 2.38% rate that's positive. We just finished the testing in Hana, actually, and all of the 600 people that were tested after the first individual tested positive, all the 600 that were tested came back negative, which is something actually astounding. We've cleaned up the Maui surge. You guys continue to be extraordinary. I can't even tell you how amazing it is that though we have limited resources on Kauai, just like we had limited resources in Kau when I was a doctor down there, only about 9 intensive care unit rooms and 18 ventilators around, or strike that, reverse it. You're being safe and smart, and that's the most important thing in a pandemic. So that's the big picture. Our mortality rate is 0.87 per our population. So a small number, the smallest number in the country except for Wyoming, and Wyoming only has like elk. So, no people to take down. So that's a good thing, unless you're a hunter, in which case it's not so good because the elk are running crazy now. So we have plans ahead. It's somewhat unfathomable, I think, to a lot of us to wonder how we're at 2 cases a day and we still don't feel comfortable opening up the state. And so I think that as we approach the end of the month, what I've advised the governor, and just very open and candid with you guys, the only person I lied to is Senator Kochi, of course. So, keep him set aside. But with that exception, all truth here. And I'll tell you, we need to give people some relief. I think that we're modeling right now what the added risk would be if we open the beaches and for walking and spending time apart, going in our family cluster who we're living with and kissing and hugging anyway. I think if we do that and we're 20 feet apart, it will be okay. I defer to the mayors, of course, though, because they've got to make that call ultimately. But walking outdoors, it's safe to be outside as long as you're socially distanced. And you can, of course, wear a mask if you're going to go into a store or grocery store, what have you. But I think that we have to be balanced in our approach because we don't want to drive people totally insane I could tell you my 10-year-old's giving me some serious angst today, and people have to have their lives. But at the same time, we're going to be safe. So I think that we should loosen some of our restrictions. That would be good. I think that we are still waiting to see how people feel about inter-island travel. The fact of the matter is we're quickly decreasing our viral load to 0 in the state. And as long as that's the case, then it's not going to matter whether we travel inter-island or not. I am worried about tourists, and I think we have to have a serious plan before we open our borders to the mainland, because they will have virus still on the mainland. And my personal recommendation so far to the governor in general, though this is, something for wide debate, I'm not the expert, I'm becoming somewhat expert, is that we probably should attempt to test everyone who wants to fly to Hawaii for at least the first 3 months. And when I say attempt, I mean they have to get a test or they don't get in. We can do some rapid testing here. We have some of the Abbott testers. They are rapid tests, but they still take between 5 and 13 minutes. So it's, you can't just test a plane of 300 people. It would take a lot of hours to do. So a certificate where people get a doctor or their nurse practitioner to sign off that they're negative, just like we do. I'm not trying to be silly here, but like we do for dogs so that we don't get rabies in the island, we're even more serious than that. This has been serious for friends, so I think that's the right way to open the state up, bring back tourism in 10% or 20% increments on travel, but slowly when we feel comfortable with it. And I'm also doing a few other things. I'm having our team model comparative climates. They've had very few cases, for instance, in India, when you'd think they'd have a lot because there's so many people and they're very clustered in large cities in a lot of places. But because of the temperature, they have not had many cases at all. And I think that when we hit about May 20th, when our temperatures start to surge, we will also see another barrier to this virus spreading. So that, combined with social distancing, combined with keeping the tourists away, it looks like obviously at least till June. And I defer to your wisdom as a community. You guys have to also tell us when we're ready for them. That is the model to keep this knocked down, and then continue to build our infrastructure so that if in the fall there's any kind of secondary surge, we're ready to kick the crap out of the virus with contact tracing and testing real fast. So there'll be like little fires, put a fire out, put a fire out, put a fire out. And that's how we stay safe. Meanwhile, the final things I would report are we are only at about 40% of our hospital capacity in use right now, which is very good. Our intensive care units are only occupied at a 37% rate, I believe. And only 9% of our ventilators are in use right now, 9%. That's like 41 out of more than 450. So we have the resources, we have the will, it appears, but I think we have to be a little bit understanding of people's needs, because I don't want people to rebel and become totally non-compliant. We've all seen Mel when he's going off the handle. So we have to be mindful that we keep him under strict control.
Oh, I'm gonna try stay as strictly controlled as I can. A couple of questions, Doc. And the one person, and I hate to talk about people that have died, but the paper reported that he was released from the hospital and he got sick at home, and then passed away at home. Was that a resurgence of the virus, or?
That's a great question. Actually, that's a very sophisticated question and problem. What we're seeing with this virus is that a couple things happen that can happen after a person seems to be out of the woods and then, as a turn for the worst. And there are two ways. One is the respiratory symptoms can come on quite quickly. And it appears that when people get the virus, their lungs become somewhat rigid from the damage to the cells inside the lungs. Okay, the epithelial cells break down, the lungs become more rigid, and so some people look good, and then crash. And it doesn't happen very often. Usually, you can tell because people's oxygen is not good at that point. But that's one way. And another thing that they found, I've been reading quite a lot of the literature about this, is this virus, like many viruses, if it gets into the pericardial sac, that's the sac around the heart, it causes what's called pericarditis, and that's swelling there. And if that sneaks up on you, it can restrict the ability for the heart to beat properly, and that causes immediate cardiac problems. And that's very likely what happened. That you'd be surprised how fast that comes on for people. They feel fine. And there's this classic sign. If people are leaning forward and not breathing well, and they feel like they got to lean forward, most people don't know this, of course, but that is one of the classic signs that people got a pericardial problem. And that can be dealt with, but it's tough. You got to do some serious doctoring stuff, which I probably won't describe on television because it's a little grisly.
I know, because you were talking about the recovery rate. So I'm just, apparently this guy had recovered enough to send him home. He had been in the hospital for a while, actually, it seems like, anyway. And then the other thing you touched on, where, starting to lift up some of the restrictions, for the last week or so, we've been hearing about the numbers dropping, and we're starting to be successful with this virus, and yet the restrictions got stricter. And I think that was the mixed signals that the people are getting. And why in the hell now? On Kauai, our mayor allowed us to walk on the beach, run on the beach, and the governor now shut down. You can't even walk on the beach. You cannot run on the beach. But yet, at a time where we're being told that everything is going well, and I think that's the confusion that a lot of people are having.
Yeah, let me comment on that. I'm not trying to be disagreeable, but I do disagree with the governor and the other mayors on this point. I think that it is absolutely okay to walk or run on the beach. In fact, I think it's good to do that, provided that you socially distance with yourself. And I think it's actually very important that people begin to feel a sense of normalcy. We are going to do certain things that are normal. You can start going back to the doctor again, start getting checked up again. We won't have restaurants quite yet, but jogging on the beach, being in parks, that is perfectly reasonable from my perspective, and it's not higher risk. In fact, a lot of the science demonstrates that if you're, for instance, at home, instead of having your air conditioning on, it's better to have your doors open, your windows open, and having fresh air flow in and out. It's better to do that than contain virus and spread it to your sister or your wife or your mom or whatever. So being on the beach is fine. I wouldn't fault any mayor if they made that decision to allow for that kind of thing. And the governor's order does allow for each of the counties to pick and choose how they're going to handle their parks, and frankly, how they're going to really enforce their laws in their county. So I have a feeling a lot of us have been lobbying the governor a little bit to chill out on the beach thing, because look, the beaches where it's hot, that virus is dying almost instantly, and you just can't keep people inside forever. I don't think we're ready to open up all the restaurants at full capacity or open our airports, because I don't trust the tourists. But aside from that, I think we're okay.
And let me get one more question in, Charlie, and then you can take over. The tourists. You okay, Doc?
Yeah, that was Charlie made me sneeze. No.
I understand that the airlines have to apply for an exemption to be able to fly to our airports, and they requested the exemption. They got granted the exemption, so they are able now to fly into Honolulu. They are not allowed to fly to the outer islands. I did get a call from a friend. Asiana Airlines and Korea Airlines had ramped up their flights leaving on May 1st to Hawaii, to Honolulu. Thank God, Mayor Caldwell extended his stay-at-home order, so they canceled all the flights. Once they found out that the stay-at-home order for Honolulu had been extended, they canceled the flights. But I was told that the flights from on Asiana Airlines in the main cabin was filled. The concern I have with those flights, Korea doesn't have secured borders. So they have people from China, they have people from Japan, they have people from all over the Orient flying into China, and could get on a flight, a Korean Airlines or a Asiana Airlines, and fly to Honolulu. That is a huge concern. I understand we're on Kauai, but all of these flights that are planning, and we know Alaska, they canceled theirs. There's no Alaska flights, but Delta is still coming. But we have the Uniteds that are coming from New York to Honolulu. They're selling the flight New York to Lihui. So yeah, they stop in Honolulu, but they change, get on the inner island, and they come here. I'm afraid that we're not going to be able to control these tourists once we open up. And I'm not sure what mechanisms are in place. And hopefully you can answer this. Like you said earlier, 20% or 10%. How do we regulate that?
It's a challenge, but we absolutely can regulate it. What I think we have to do is well in advance, and I don't mean just like 5 days in advance. I think we have to tell all the airlines and the world 2 or 3 weeks in advance that we're going to have very strict protocols for travel to Hawaii for the first 90 days, or probably even, we're smart, we'll do 180 days. But we do things in 90-day increments on this, would probably be adequate. And we tell people, look, you're going to have to test negative, period. Have to test negative within 3 days of travel. That will, I did some of the modeling today. If we did, let's say we did 20% travel, which would be 150,000 travelers to the state per month. If we did that, the likely rate of positive, asymptomatic positive people is going to be about 0.1%. And we can drive that down even further by testing. We'll be able to keep the number between about 50 and 75 people that could conceivably be asymptomatic, but positive for the virus, that we don't catch. That number, though not zero, will be very small and very unlikely to infect us. So it's not 100%, but if you have testing where we do that, we can eliminate, number one, anybody who's symptomatic, they're out. They don't come. And they'd be crazy to come anyway. I mean, you're talking about someone who's pathological in their own mind, if they did that. Then the next thing we do is we say you have to have a certificate of negative status. And then finally, we'll check them for temperature and a history when they get here, which is only marginally beneficial because most people don't have a fever the moment you check them. So that will keep it down. And that will also be a pretty big barrier for people to fly here, because then they're going to have to go through a significant process. However, having said all that, if Hawaii is so appealing to other people, like trying to get out of New York, like I've heard that there is a surge of rich people. Some of them are my relatives who have this idea that they should come to Hawaii and get out of Chicago or New York. If they try that, we're going to have pretty strict rules. And we would and still have the capacity to quarantine people. And if we want to get serious about it, we're going to have to designate hotels for quarantine, because otherwise they go to the wind or they go to Airbnbs and you can't do it. So if we see that kind of surge, those are our two big weapons. You got to get tested, and we're going to put you in a hotel quarantine if we choose. And that will be sufficient, I believe, to suppress the numbers.
The only question is, we were told, or we've been told, that we cannot tell the airlines, or the airline says they cannot restrict someone from boarding the plane. That was the excuses I've been hearing, that no, we can't do that because airlines cannot discriminate, or they cannot turn away a person, which I totally disagree with, by the way. I think that was an excuse. But what makes it, and how can Hawaii state government tell someone in New York, a New York official, a New York transportation department, that you need to get a ticket, or you need to get a paper from a doctor or clearance? I just logistically, I don't see how that is going to happen. I don't know how, without getting the feds involved.
We will broadcast through all the airlines so that they'll know that if they get to Honolulu International Airport or any of our airports, that if they don't have that certificate to enter, they're going to go into a 14-day quarantine, which that's our capacity. We have also the ability to do some testing. We can do some rapid tests at the airport, but it's pretty slow. And people would have to then, the main thing we would do is we could tell people, you have the option of going to 14-day quarantine over here, or we're happy to test you at this clinic, which is going to take somewhere between 1 and 5 days. Ask Senator Kochi. Ron, took him like 14 days to get out of quarantine. So
16,
we didn't mean to do that to him. It was semi-funny at the moment, but it's kind of rough. He took it like a champ. So it's really, really, really something we have to be careful about, because even now, as I say this to you, I'm getting texts from a friend, Josh, just for your information, a friend of mine said Hawaii will open safely before any other state. Well, that's an incentive for people to think that they should come here right away. And we're going to have to, because of that perception, put up serious roadblocks to not have a flood of people that could infect us. So we will do that. I will fight to the death with any of my colleagues, make sure that we have some serious protocols to keep us from getting a big surge. We can't afford that. And we can't afford to get locked down again. That's the thing. You know, I can't imagine asking people to be out of this for the summer and then, God forbid, we lock down. That's going to be too hard to tolerate.
Well,
Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor, you know, a question was posed with regards to the Maui cluster. And I guess one of the workers, and I will just send over in a message, one of the workers did their 14-day isolation and came back and started to cough again. Should that be assigned to retest, or is, because apparently this person is coughing all over the place and the workers are getting all shell shocked, like, hey, you got to back up. And I guess this person is not using enough wisdom, knowing that they were in the thick of things at Maui Memorial. What kind of, what should they do?
They should test again, and they should get an overnight test. And if they test negative, then they're okay. There's a lot of reasons for coughing right now, but one of the main ones is COVID-19. You know, and so they have to be tested again, and they have to be sent home by their supervisor. So that's necessary, because the reason, Charlie, that's a very good question that you ask, is that the two individuals that ended up apparently causing the outbreak in Maui and the one in the McDonald's on Big Island in Kona, both went to work sick, and they had active symptoms, and they made a very terrible mistake, which cost all of us very dearly. I mean, it cost us 35 or 36 people on Kona's side got sick because of that one person, and I think it's like, 46 people in Maui got sick. And had we not had that setback, I hate to tell you guys this, and it's probably thousands of people listening right now, we probably would have been able to really significantly relax some of our restrictions without hesitation on May 1st. But those two clusters sent a chilling effect through the state that probably condemned a lot of people to another couple of weeks of unemployment. And it's just reality, but that's what happened. So that dude's got to go home and get tested again, and we'll give him unemployment or whatever if we have to. And everybody else who's symptomatic out there knows. I mean, people are necessarily staying home, and that's the right thing to do.
So if like Molokai as an example, you know, the individuals and those workers, I guess, from that market all decided to do the right thing and stay home. So if after that 14-day period, nothing presents itself, they're pretty much assumed clear to go, correct?
Yeah, they should be. You know, for close contacts, and we did test a lot of people, it's good to test. I'm a big fan of testing any symptoms, even as minor as they can be, and every close contact, anyone who justifies any contact, I mean, just do it. Take the test. It's first of all, insurance covers it. Second, it's very small price to pay to prevent outbreaks. And we have such a small number now, we can surround, like with tanks, the number of people that have the virus and make them get tested. So I think that's the way to go. Hopefully the numbers will continue like this. I mean, if we have another 7 days like this, then I think all of the mayors are going to quickly agree that some with social distancing, that we can start living our lives a little bit outdoors again.
You know, I think what you just said, it brings it very, very clear for the viewers. And right now we have about 400 and close to 450 just viewers just watching this portion alone. You said that get tested, right? If you have close contact, just get tested. And so I think a lot of the questions have been, people have been quarantined for 14 days and they've asked, can we get a second test? But they're being told no need. And they want to. So I think we got to get some kind of clear, definite message that, if it's allowed, go get tested. If it's not, then no, you don't have to. But right now there's this juggling going back and forth and everybody's getting confused. And I think just by the questions that we've had over the last couple of weeks, especially when Molokai popped up, it's became, because they're sensitive, the community is small. and they want to go back, but they don't want to be responsible to reinfect anyone because they themselves stayed home for 14 days, but they don't know if they're in a, literally they don't know if they're in the clear or not. And so what should they do? So I think it's the messaging that comes out from the top, from I guess the governor's office or health department, to let people know what the right thing to do. If you want to get tested, go get tested, like you said, something like that.
Let me take a step back, Doc, because before that person gets positive and stays home for 14 days, I put up a post today, just a quick survey. How many of you were denied testing when you went to the doctor with symptoms of COVID? You will be surprised how many people gave their little personal story. That is the problem here on Kauai. I'm not sure what's going on Oahu and Maui or the Big Island or Lanai or wherever, but I know on Kauai, and Kauai is the only county that Dr. Miskovich is not at. So we don't have the widespread testing, the drive-through. We got a facility out at KVMH, and I think we got one at Wilcox. We are not, our doctors are not allowing our sick people to get tested. That is the problem. So we have a lot of people that may have lived through, survived the virus, but were never counted because they never got tested. And you'll be surprised how many people posted on that today, a lot more than I thought. And a lot of them are personal friends of mine that based on their description of their symptoms, but they weren't tested. And that's kind of scary. And I'm wondering why our testing on Kauai, we've had a little over 1,000 tests since the inception of this virus. That's a very small size or sample size for our population. And I think that's concerning a lot of our people that are sick and not getting tested.
Let me share what we should do, okay? And then we'll talk about what we can do. So anybody with symptoms deserves to get tested. End of story, okay? So that should be approved, and anyone who rejects that has really not done a good service to people. If you have symptoms, you must get tested because you're going to be back home with probably an extended family and you want to know, period. Okay, that's one. Now, anyone who's in close contact with anyone who's tested positive also deserves to get tested if they'd like, because they could easily be an asymptomatic carrier then, easily, okay? So, if you have one of your best buddies and they happen to be one of the people that tested positive, you spend a lot of time with them, or your significant other, you deserve to get tested. End of story again. So those are the first two basic criteria, and that's where it should go. Now, I do have some good news for you. We are now finally getting some of the antibody tests approved, and they're going to be out and a lot more available than ever in the next week or two. Those antibody tests can tell you the answers to your question that you have, Mel, which is a lot of people want to know, well, okay, maybe I got screwed over before when I should have been tested. I'm happy to be alive now. Did I have it? And that antibody test will be able to tell people whether or not they had the virus. It shows the antibodies in their blood. After 7 days, one antibody goes up, and then after about 10 days, the second one starts going up. And those are called IgM and then IgG antibodies. The antibody specifics are not that important, although you certainly understand this stuff, right? But the point is, we will be able to assess whether people actually did have the virus. And honestly, I think a few people are going to be mad about it and go off on their nurse or doctor for like, hey, I told you that I was hanging out with Mel or some other friend and they were at risk or they were sick. So that is coming. But the good news is that we have not seen a spike in our intensive care unit beds use or the ventilator use. And so that tells us that our background disease is pretty low, because about 1 out of every 100 people, 150 people end up on a ventilator in the ER, in the hospital, and that's the scary part. So we're getting through to the end, like I said, of phase one. We've all learned more than we want to learn about coronavirus for sure. And now, we can better get ready for the next phase, which is going to be beginning our economy again. Now, as to testing though, if anybody's is getting that cold shoulder, I'm happy to advocate for them and call over to the hospital personally. I mean, I don't mind doing that. And we're setting up a team with the general so we can go to different areas and do lots of tests if necessary. We call this the red team. And that's with General Hara. And so again, I'm happy to do that. So I've shared it with you before. Here's my cell phone. Please don't hesitate to text me. It's 937-0991, 937-0991. and definitely get on our social media and give people updates every minute of the day, pretty much. I think that's at LTGov Josh Green. But this is a way I can definitely apply some pressure. And I visited, of course, your hospitals, and I can speak to people. I think the next phase of this is we probably get a little bit of mobile testing, maybe with AMR, maybe with some others. We can do some of these things. I hope that we won't need to do that much testing once we get to May, June. The hope is that most people will be in the clear, but can't guarantee it just yet.
I have my classmate of mine who's actually on this call right now. She messaged me today. Dr. Miskovich last night talked about the symptoms and how it comes about. Charlie, he knew exactly what he was talking about because his brother went through the exact same thing where it gets to the point where you take 2 steps, you cannot breathe. Well, she had the symptoms. She did get tested last Thursday. Her husband, test didn't come back yet, but her husband, they won't test him. They won't test any of the close contacts. And that's one of many stories, I think, Doc. If you have an opportunity, go back to my page afterwards and look. It's today's post. It's a purple background. You're not going to miss it. It's quite shocking. And, for some reason, I am told that the parameters, the Department of Health parameters for doctors to approve a test or order a test is too strict, that you need to have too many symptoms. And if you don't have them all, you ain't getting a test. And again, you can read it from the patients themselves on the wall. They were very open about it. And I think that's the frustration. We don't have that ability here. We like I said, we have a couple of testing spots, but if the doctors aren't ordering the tests, no one's getting tested. And
if that continues to be a problem, I think the private testers will pop in to the island, and Misko got pretty, he got pretty wild on this thing and loves testing. So he went off, and I don't know exactly how they made their decisions on where to test and whatnot. Usually, I hate to be like this, but it's where a lot of people are, right? And one of the best parts of Kauai is that it's fairly quiet, not too many people. But on the flip side, we need healthcare, and we need these answers. So there's that. There are going to be tests. You'll be amazed. Pretty soon, there's going to be home testing. I don't always recommend that kind of thing because, people will come in like vultures and try to sell people anything. And I'm not so sure that the tests are going to be good tests, but we could test out the tests on Charlie and Senator Koji and see if they work first.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, sirree. Lieutenant Governor, so just so I'm looking at some of the comments, just to kind of like ease up their mind. So if those individuals at Mar Memorial Hospital, if you feel that this worker who came back after 14 days is coughing, you folks should either tell them go home or go get retested, because that'll be the safest thing to do, because you just don't want a secondary cluster to break out again, right? If it should come back positive.
Yeah, let me ask you some more details about that person, Charlie. Is this a person who actually, remind me, was positive for COVID, or they tested negative, but they did their 14 days?
No, they tested positive for COVID. The way I'm looking at the question.
Then they need to be tested again, because there are some individuals that go well beyond the 14 days with symptoms. And if that person is still, like, you can have coughing for a long time, but you have to be, in that circumstance, negative for a viral load. So that person needs to be at home, needs to be negative, and it's going to create a scandal otherwise. It's not good at all. They're very likely still spreading some viral particles, and they have to be at home.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You bet.
So whoever who sent that message in, you heard it straight from Dr. Green here on Facebook Live tonight. And that's part of the beauty of this all. We can just keep on throwing the questions out, and hopefully, you're able to answer them and satisfy them. Because, both Mel and I, we've been accused of maybe stirring the pot, but yet we look at trying to address the masses with information. Arm yourself with the knowledge. And then that way, you can be confident when you walk down the street. You're not going to be one that's going to go stir crazy. I mean, that's not our intention at all. Right, Mel?
I found you guys to be very, very steady. And, you know, I do sometimes see, not you guys, people taking shots at the leadership, and honestly, sometimes they deserve it. You guys have had pretty good leadership, I have to say, on your island, from you guys and mayor and everybody. But I sometimes wonder. I'm not going to throw too many stones. I sometimes wonder if people are just grandstanding, and it's one thing to have a little fun with it and bring down the stress, but you know, these 2-hour press conferences that say nothing for, you know, an hour and 50 minutes and then get us all confused, that's not helpful. So I prefer to have, you know, a quick strike and then answer questions, specific questions, because I know from my own family, people have regular concerns. So what else you got? What are people worried about?
No, it's just it's been one that, you know, before you came on, we just wanted to get an update. And again, this goes back to, you know, sad to say, you know, we all get connected to the press conferences like everybody else, and you know, we'll sit back and we'll watch the comments of how lay people like ourselves interpret how the conference went. And it's sad to say that the comments are not that great, and it's usually targeted at a specific group that comes in front of the camera. So you know, when we start to look at that, we're saying like, hey, you know, we're not feeding fuel to the fire, but they've got a certain way of thinking why they would make a comment like that. So it's going back and playing the replay and just watching it over and see how the messaging is coming on. And you know, a lot of times it's just maybe using the wrong type of words to get the message out. You know, it's said wrong, but it'll throw people into a tizzy. You know, it'll throw people into a tizzy.
I know. I watch it, and you know, in general, my role is I'm trying to make sure people understand there's no reason to panic, and I want people to have a really good, clear, analytic idea about what our capacity is and what can happen. After that, I'm as full of crap as the next guy probably, but this is serious stuff. You went through with your brother, you know, your half brother, and I went through with a friend, and we all are getting stories, and it's pretty rough to watch on the mainland. They got pounded, right? So this is a thing we're going to remember forever. And I actually think that in the aftermath of the infection, once we're not worried too much about, you know, getting hit by the virus ourselves, I think people are going to really be introspective and remember the fun. Like, I really am feeling very happy that I've had extra time with my kids playing cards tonight and, you know, cooking chicken parmesan. Jamie was doing that, and we're at home instead of racing off to some, you know, fundraiser or event that doesn't matter. I mean, I think a lot of people are getting really good quality time. So unless you hate your wife or husband, this is a time to hang out and remember that there's so many incredible things about Hawaii that when we've kind of gotten it back. When we get back out there and there aren't tourists here and we're back together, we get our jobs going again, I think people are going to remember the better parts of Hawaii. So not that there's all silver lining here. Obviously, it's very rough if people are dealing with the economics of it. But I have a strange feeling when people look back on 2020, and it'll be known as the coronavirus year, no question. They're also going to remember that they're going to think this is where we kind of recalibrated what matters to us. I'm sure of that.
So, you know, we have this other thing where, you know, everybody looks at Dr. Fauci, right? And and we know what he said. So it kind of and he kind of painted a bleak picture. Is he just addressing the continental U.S.? Because it sounds like he's not addressing us.
No, it's scary when you hear Fauci. I mean, Fauci's a pretty smart guy, and I appreciate him. But we are in a totally different zone. I mean, we're much more like New Zealand than we are like California or New York or Pennsylvania. We, because of our isolation, because of our multi-ethnic population, because we literally brought the hammer down, whatever day that was. I don't know what day. Sometime, I guess that was March 25th or something. I mean,
right.
Because of all those things, we are utterly different and different than pretty much the rest of the world. I mean, certainly different than the European continent and Asia, the subcontinent, and so on. So very different. We do have to be mindful that being different has been good so far, but it means that we probably don't have as much immunity building up. And so we're also going to have to be a little more careful after this first wave. They're going to have some immunity, and our passive immunity and herd immunity is not going to really be there yet. So we'll be careful. I'm going to make sure we're careful. I'm not going to let us get slammed by this virus unless it's completely unstoppable. And that means if we have to stop planes, we're going to stop planes. And if we have to stop people from going to, the Kauai Marriott when we don't want them there, we'll stop them. So whatever is necessary. And that's why communication is going to be good. You guys should keep speaking up. And, you're a much better receiver of people who are friends for a lifetime, 50, 60 years. Just guys have grown up together. If you have significant worries from people, just put them together and bring them to me, and I'll put it in people's face that whether it's the airlines or others, that we're not ready yet. And there's no shame in that. It's better for us to be safe. There's no economic activity anyway right now. I mean, no matter what we've done, it would have been rough.
Right.
Because, so we'll be careful.
Yeah, I think the fear is always that cluster. We saw it in Maui, we saw it in Kona. I mean, we can really screw up the numbers just with one cluster. And I think the biggest fear for me anyway is the tourists, is that one. And I understand that, there's a lot of things that we can do. I'm just hoping that the state is really starting the planning for that, because the logistics of getting that done is going to take a while. And I don't know if the airlines are going to wait that long. We already know the flights are coming starting May 1st. They are going to be coming, and we're not going to be able to stop them. All we have is what's in place now, which is this screening at the airport, taking a chance that they, understand we're going to double check their residents and so forth. But we still know that these guys are not all of them are really going to do it. But that's my fear. One cluster. I know Minnie Cole was on. We had her on a couple of nights ago. She explained she was in South Korea, and she explained their whole model. But they're what they call patient number 31. One person, man, over 100 infections from that one person, and their contact tracing is incredible. I mean, obviously, but nonetheless, they that one person, and I think that's always the biggest fear. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's switch gears a little bit because people are, we're unemployment. Let's save unemployment for last. One real quick question. I think I've answered this on Facebook. Nobody believes me. They'll believe you. Why are we paying so much for gas when the prices of oil are below zero? That's coming up time, and we're 348 over here.
Well, look, it's not much consolation, but hopefully people aren't filling up their gas tanks real often right now. I mean, because if you're filling up your gas tanks, then you're cheating the system a little too much. So, I'd rather have someone steal your car, Mel, and drive around and fill it up rather than them filling up a bunch of tanks right now. I don't want everybody out there buying gas and driving. So it's hard for these guys. They're pretty much, they're not even active. I mean, everyone's lying low and dealing with the coronavirus. I just don't think they've taken the time to go through their first batch of inventory. When the next inventory comes up and gas is essentially negative, the price of gas is so low, we should see very steep declines, really steep declines, for probably a 2-month period. And then the world will start opening up again. And remember, this is going to be about the global market, not just the Hawaii market. So wherever other places start opening up, they'll start having demand. Right now, it's the craziest situation ever. They actually are paying to store gasoline, right? The oil company. So they're kind of getting what they deserve after charging you guys I remember when it was $5 a gallon, a few years back. Yeah. That was not nice. And I was driving around Kona, all the way from Kona to Hawaii and back when I was on call. So that was killer. But it'll come down in the next batch, and then when the actual, when the lid comes off of the tourist restriction, we're going to start using gas again. So we'll get a brief respite from it. But everybody, please let your tanks go dry for another couple weeks. Do not drive, and go jogging or walking or wherever. But yeah, this is the time to lay low for it's just like, what day is today? Today the 21st, 22nd, 21st. Yeah,
21st.
Nine more days, and then we can start addressing May, and hopefully in a civilized way, we'll have a little bit more activity outside, and I'll be able to hopefully report that we have no active cases on 3 or 4 days in a row, or 3 days out of 5, or some such thing. That will mean that it's really, really low, and then we can we'll start to loosen our restrictions. We'll start to have a little bit more confidence in gatherings and so on, just a little bit.
So are we looking at starting the relaxation of the restrictions on May 1? Is that what we're looking at right now?
I suspect that we'll see a little bit of the social relaxations for when we go out as families for walking around, minor activities. We still are going to have the restrictions on restaurants. We're still going to have the restrictions on large gatherings, but I won't be surprised if we are allowed to have small clusters of family at beaches or parks. I think that's going to be pretty reasonable, especially if look, if we report 0 cases, 1, 0, 2, 1, 0 in the last 7 days, it's going to be hard to convince people to listen, So
Got it.
My recommendation then would be to be civilized and let people in very modest family gatherings be together outside for 15 days. And then at that point, I would probably recommend that we not worry about inter-island travel. Again, the volume would be very low of the disease. And then we start getting serious about, okay, are we ready to have a very small number of well-tested tourists come here? Someday we're going to have to take a deep breath and accept that, right? Mm-hmm. So, I'll tell you, if money were not at all ever an issue for anybody here, I'd love it if we never saw many more tourists. It would be great to transition away from that and figure out ways to have our tourist industry evolve. But that's a little bit mean, and I don't want to be like that. I love our hotels, so we're going to have tourism, but maybe not quite so much.
Lieutenant Governor, what I've learned from this period of time, it's like, just looking around the world, you're now be able to see mountains. You see smog lifted from LA, so you kind of wonder if this is something that this world needs, that every so many, weeks and maybe every so many months, that all travel just shuts down until Mother Nature can take a deep breath and become green again. That's what it seems like.
Have you seen how many fish you can see in the water lately? It's incredible.
Yes.
It's just amazing, and it's cleaner, and our global warming picture is going to be better this year. Now, mm-hmm. I can't trade that for 171,000 lives, but I can say this, that it's kind of an awakening for different societies, and it's going to create an interesting dynamic because a lot of countries don't listen. Like mm-hmm. right now, China and India are not listening adequately to the earth. I'm not trying to be a hippie here, because me, I'm kind of a capitalist doctor type, but they have to behave a little differently, because it's not working to have 2 billion people together eating strange animals and causing coronavirus outbreaks. And it's not working to punch a hole in the, in our atmosphere, in the ozone. So hopefully people will come together after this. This is a pretty serious shock to the system internationally.
And, another thing that was just asked, it just came on the screen, and Mel and I was trying to address this with our superintendent here locally. But what's your take on the schools for our kids? Because, a lot of parents, they're asking, pretty much, when is it going to start up again? Not all schools have the capability of going through that, like teleconferencing or teleteaching. And so, they're kind of
Yes.
worried about the kids' education and what's going on. You have any information on that?
I do have some information. I mean, they haven't made a final decision yet, but I actually expect that come fall, we're going to have schools be open. I suspect that will be the case. I know that initially they kind of pulled the trigger with this recommendation that was 4 consecutive weeks with no cases at all. And that wasn't probably fully warranted. So really what we want to do is we want to have a couple weeks where we don't have active community spread. That would be sufficient. And kids have to get educated. Life will go on for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we will be more immune. And also, because we're going to get some immunity, we also now know how to contact trace people much better than we ever did before. Can I guarantee we won't have to have a pause for a month? I can't guarantee that, but I suspect that come August, we're going to get back to school. And that kind of, it's a little bit of a lucky thing too, because we're going to go through a warm summer and the virus is going to be gone unless we really, really blow it by letting tourists come back too quickly. So schools should be allowed. I would expect. I don't speak for the superintendent. I really like her a lot, actually. And I think she's a very smart person and certainly cares about our kids more than I can imagine. So one of my 2 kids is in public school, so it's important though to educate kids. It's important for people to get exercise. It's important for people to have their anniversary dinner out somewhere good. These are important things. And it's one thing to lose several months. Losing a whole year or 2 years, that's too much. People won't tolerate that. So I keep your ears peeled. We have some time to make that decision.
Okay.
Speaking of anniversary, yesterday was Charlie's 24th anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Got married when he was 7.
One last COVID question. This is from my wife. She sews masks and she gives them all away. Can she stop sewing masks now or should she continue? I'm assuming that as we lift restrictions, you're still going to be requiring the masks to be worn out in the public, right?
Yes, just 400 more masks, please.
Okay, 400 more masks, Patsy. That's no, I mean that's not one. I mean that's going to continue for a while, right?
Yeah, masks are going to be part of our culture now, and interestingly, flu is going to be much less significant in the future in Hawaii, which is very good because flu probably kills 70 to 80 people a year in Hawaii, and coronavirus is probably going to kill in Hawaii less than 25 unless we mess up. So, but flu next year we will save 60 lives because of your wife's masks, her alone. So it's good.
And I think we have become, we're creatures of habit. So now I've never washed my hands so much before, never. And it's become a habit now. You come back from the store, wash your hands. Whatever we do, we wash our hands. So I think that's going to carry over, like you said, to the flu. All right. With the time we have left.
Charlie told me you never wash your hands before this at all.
I never did.
So.
I never washed my damn hands. Hell no, man. I never washed hands. I never covered my mouth when I coughed or sneezed. I shared the aloha every day. All right, let's wrap this thing up with the unemployment. What's going on with unemployment? People, we got people that are penniless and haven't received their checks yet.
So the good news is we kind of lit a fire in a huge way. And I have a great deal of appreciation for what's happened with Scott and those guys. So they opened up a huge extra capacity now. I think the initial is going to be 150 extra people, kiosks going at it all day long, which can rev up to 500 with volunteers and staff. Even some of my staff is out there volunteering to do some of the processing. And, we're processing 250,000 applicants. Now, hopefully this is going to be short-lived for many people. I mean, we saw an incredibly rapid rise of individuals on unemployment for obvious reasons. And as soon as the hotels open and restaurants open, that number will also get chopped down pretty significantly and quickly. But we will get people's checks. They will add the federal dollars as well, which I think was a $600 additional federal hunk of money. If I may, as people get their money in, please do me a favor and pay your rent to your landlords. and I'm not a landlord, so I could say that without any bias, but we want the landlords to also pay their mortgages and still be good landlords. So use your money first, of course, for food and clothing for your loved ones, but also pay your rent. So we want to keep all of society running kind of normally. And we will get through that quite quickly. I really hope that by, August, when we are seeing tourism and we are seeing hotels fill up again, not full, but people coming, as long as it's safe, I hope that those unemployment numbers drop a lot. Again, 2020 is a bear. It's going to be a bear, and it's going to hurt. But we'll all tighten our belts a little or a lot in some cases. And this will be a year we'll get through. 2021 will be one hell of a lot better than 2020. I can tell you that. And 2021 will be our transition year, where hopefully things are pretty normal. I just don't really quite have a crystal ball. I don't know exactly what this virus is going to look like next winter, but be strong and of good faith. It's going to be all right.
One last
Governor,
question on the unemployment, real quick. This unemployment checks, the $600 extra, will all be retroactive, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Charlie.
Yes, Governor. I think what's been frustrating, I guess, within the last week or so is the amount of protests. We have those who are law-abiding that, did as was asked of us. And to have these people openly protest, and now with the lifting of the restrictions or loosening it up, some people are wondering, is it because of the protest that it put pressure on, or this was something that was already in the works? Because some people feel that, now with the timing of how everything is playing out, it almost seems as if these protesters are becoming bold now. They're saying, hey, look, we protest now, look what's happening. Maybe you can debunk that.
Yeah, to be completely frank, I had no idea there were any protesters at all. I mean, and I'm one of the decision makers. Not the decision maker, but I didn't see them one bit. Maybe I'm just too tired at the end of the night, but I really respect freedom of speech, and I think that meanwhile, anybody who's protesting to spread coronavirus to our kupuna are full of shit. So I'm not going to buy into that one bit. Yeah.
Right on.
Holy moly. We don't edit these things. But that's why we love having you on.
He said it, Mel. He said it.
Look, Charlie, look at the sparkles. You cannot see this, Doc. I don't know if you have your Facebook, man. There's a shitload of sparkles going up on this thing right now.
Yeah, it looks like the fireworks, man.
He said it first. So.
They were coming. Fireworks are coming again too. We could.
Oh my God! Look at that! Look at that thing! It's beautiful. Charlie, can you see it?
I love it.
Oh my God! I've never seen that before. This. I don't know. I think we did go over 500 one time. Yeah. In fact, I think it was with Lieutenant Governor Green.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. You are for some reason you attract most of the viewers. This thing will top 5,000 views probably by tomorrow. Yep. And you're gonna get called into the principal's office and said you cannot be saying shit on the Mel and Charlie show.
This is you guys you're the one licensed adult, rated R show that's on live right now, I think.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, just remember the name, Lieutenant Governor Josh Green. If you haven't heard of it already, just remember, you may see it popping up every once in a while. Nice name to repeat. Funny.
It's so funny because we got comments here saying, "Hey, Lieutenant Governor, please run for governor." So he is running for governor. This is a non-political show, but he's not political. He's running for governor. So for all of you that are asking him to run, he said, "Okay."
Hey,
look at
Mel,
he is my favorite. Yes, yeah. I mean, awesome.
I'll save up some swear words for the next time. We'll be good.
All right.
Don't worry. But look, I really appreciate you guys. We never know what the future holds, and the future does hold extraordinary things for Hawaii. We're going to emerge from this and be one of the most treasured, beloved places, even more than we were before. So that means that our economy will be fine, and we will make it up to ourselves when the virus is passed. So don't worry about that too much, guys. Just survive and love each other, and don't sweat it. And if you're really freaked out about other travelers to Kauai, speak up. We'll make sure that doesn't happen before we're ready. So don't worry too much. I'll be here, and definitely speak your minds. It's much more helpful for me to hear this kind of feedback than people mouthing off all over the place, on the mainland or whatever. That I don't tolerate that either. Hawaii is too special, and we're going to be special after all this.
Well, Lieutenant Governor, just to let you know that you already have collected $5 in the swear jar.
I got $5, man. I got $5 somewhere here.
No, they already
by
put
the way,
$5
speaking of
for you in the swear
$5,
jar.
hey Doc, speaking of $5, this is a shirt that was made for us. And
Yes.
So Kirk Correa, he has a shop here, a t-shirt shop. He donated these shirts. He designed them. He paid for them all. He didn't charge anything, and we're selling it for $10. And
Yes.
all $10 goes to the Hawaii Community Foundation. So this is it, man. Look at that.
I love it.
COVID-19 2020, beautiful shirt. So thank you again, Kurt, and all of you watching. If you want to get this shirt, email or message me your sizes, and we'll send you the PayPal link or the Venmo link, and we'll get your shirts to you. So, but thanks, Doc, again,
Thank
man.
you very
I know you're a
much.
busy guy. I feel bad we took you away from playing cards with your family, but I think you made a lot of people feel a lot better tonight, and that's what this whole thing is about, man. It's about our people and informing them, educating them, and giving them the right information so they don't stress unnecessarily. So
don't stress, guys. Just keep the stress to a minimum. It's still going to be Kauai. It's still going to be beautiful there. So stay healthy and stay safe, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks, okay?
Okay.
We'll be waiting, my friend. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc.
Thank
Charles, you want to take us out of here?
Sure.
We gotta, we do this thing. Charlie kind of change it up. Don't worry. You know that song, Don't Worry? You can sing along, Doc.
Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing is gonna be all right. Don't worry.
Charlie Yona, Doc,
about a thing.
Josh Green, Lieutenant Governor Josh Green. Tomorrow night we have Frank De Lima and Augie P together on our show. We're gonna break up the week. Every Wednesday we break up the week. We bring in some fun, some humor, I'm sure we'll talk about COVID, but it'll be all fun. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, again, Lieutenant Governor Green. Thank you. You stay safe, my friend. You stay safe. We love you guys. Take care. God bless. See you guys tomorrow night. Aloha.
This is my message to you.